Hey there, I'm Lance and I'm a gamer.
And I'm Sam and I'm a non-gamer.
And we are Love to Hate, where we try to help gamers find great games to play with non-gamers.
And today we're taking a look at our top 10 games for each of us for 2022.
Now normally when you look at a top 10 video for top 10 games of the year or top 10 whatever, that's that viewer's or that reviewer's list of games. On our list of games, we're looking at games that are going to be great for gamers and non-gamers alike, as is the case with our channel, Love to Hate. That's what we're all about, helping gamers find great games to play with non-gamers. So with that in mind, the games that you see on our list are going to be games that work great for gamers and non-gamers. May not be the top games that I would always choose to play by myself or with my gamers, but this is a list that I feel like would work great when you're playing with casual or non-gamers. And as it is for Sam, it's just the top 10 games that she enjoyed for 2022. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. Wanted to throw out that clarifier there for you. As it is, I also do a top 10 list with Jeremy on the hard to master side of our channel, and that's the type of games that I would be playing with my hardcore heavier gamers. So, all right, so with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into our honorable mentions for 2022.
Honorable mentions.
So Sam, what were some of your honorable mentions?
Flaming Pyramids.
Flaming Pyramids. Now, Flaming Pyramids was a game that we reviewed not too long ago. It is a second edition of a game that was around back in, I think, 2014. So it's an older game, but a new edition has come out just right before the end of 2022. And it was a tile laying game, right? Yeah, what did you like about it so much?
It just kind of took the tiling aspect to a different level with the movement of the making of the pyramid, and then something would come down and change your whole...
all the mayhem that would create. Yeah, for sure. What else?
What about Flaming Pyramids?
No. Honorable mentions.
Creature Comforts, which I think is on as both of us.
Well, so I don't want to jump too far ahead, but yes, you will see Creature Comforts again later on in the video. What for you was a game? What made it a game that stood out to you?
I don't know. It's just it was a really fun, enjoyable game. Pretty easier game.
Yeah.
But it was just a lot of fun.
It's a lot of different, unique mechanics that we've not really seen too much on our channel. Now, dice worker placement, using dice as workers, that's something we've seen before, but it had this idea of not knowing what your dice were going to be before you had to place them in certain areas, and then you roll the dice, and hopefully you got what you needed to work for you. That was an interesting concept. I enjoyed that a lot, so yeah. All right, so a couple of my honorable mentions that nearly made the list, but just missed out just by a bit. Long Shot the Dice game is a game that we got to review earlier on in the year. It was a horse racing game, rolling dice. It is a dice rolling version of a game that had dice in it before, so I don't know why they needed to call it the dice version of the game. But it was a very unique and excellent game. Well, highly produced. Perplexed is the publisher there for it. Just narrowly missed out on my top 10. And then another one that I'm going to throw out there is Boop, a game
that was on both of us.
Yeah, I think that would be an honorable mention for you as well. Abstract strategy game with an adorable theme of cats bumping off other cats on a bed, and is from Smirk and Laughter Games. It's just an excellent abstract strategy game, probably the #1 abstract strategy game for this year.
Yeah.
So there you have it. Those are a couple of honorable mentions. So let's go ahead and jump into it with our number 10 game of the year.
Number 10.
And I'll start with number 10. We'll go back and forth on this. And so my number 10 game is a game that was in a series of games. It's the latest entry in a series of games from Underdog Games, and that is Trekking Through History. So we got to review this one. Like I said, it's the latest entry in the trekking line of games. And in my opinion, this is probably my favorite of the trekking games. Yeah. I absolutely enjoy time travel in general as a theme, as an idea, and to have a board game be based off of that, and you have all of these big moments in history, the artwork that is portraying those events on these cards, the flavor text, everything about this game is just highly produced, and the mechanics are a whole lot of fun. If you played any of the trekking games, you absolutely need to play the Trekking Through History game, as I think it's the best one. So that's my number 10 game, Trekking Through History from Underdog Games. What's your number 10?
My number 10 is Ghosts Love Candy 2.
Ghosts Love Candy 2. That's from 25th Century Games. What'd you like about it?
It has so many cards to it, which usually doesn't necessarily mean great game, but it has so much variety to the characters that you're getting to play with, and it makes it a lot of fun because you never know what's going to come out next. You never know how the interactions between the people or the children and the ghost are going to be.
Yeah.
So it's just a really enjoyable game, and I think the variety of it is really well for replayability.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the biggest thing with that game, is just that there's over 100 different trick-or-treater cards that come out. And you don't even get through half the deck in one game. So there's a ton of replayability, and a lot of those characters their actions can bounce off of one another. And so it's just really kind of cool to see how the game shakes out every time you play it. Great enough to play even when it's not Halloween time, even though it is a Halloween themed game. So yeah, very good game there.
Number 9.
All right, so our number 9. Sam, what is your number 9 game for 2022?
My number 9 game is Museum Suspects.
Museum Suspects from Blue Orange Games. Now, this is a deduction game. What'd you like about it?
It was a very unique deduction game. It's a very quick play. The artwork is unique and funny. It's just very enjoyable. And I just love the whole mechanic of figuring out who done it.
Yeah, right. The deduction element of it. Yeah. Believe it or not, my number 9 game is also Museum Suspects from Blue Orange Games. Phil Walker Harding is a master of board game development and design, and he does it again with this particular game. I mentioned in our review for that game that it is probably my favorite 20 minutes or less deduction game. Yeah. Because it is 100% deduction. You're getting these clues, you're marking off people. And what I really like a lot about it is that it has it built in to where there could be multiple culprits or there could be no culprits. Yeah. And that's just a fun little twist with the game that you don't really see a whole lot in deduction games. That, you always think, well, there's at least one person who did it, right? There may not be in this case. And you got to be prepared for that. And using your tokens to weight different clues and force other players to have to buy in to get those clues if you feel like they're good clues. But at the same time, those are the ways that you get points with those tokens. I think that's a good balance with that mechanic. So highly recommend that one. That is Museum Suspects from Blue Orange Games.
Number 8.
All right, so we're at our number 8 game of the year for 2022. And my number 8 game is probably going to be what I would say is the best cooperative game of 2022, and that was Decorum. And that's from Floodgate Games. In fact, our review on this one has just come out. As of we're making of this video, we haven't released it yet, but it will have been released by the time we're releasing this video. So we just released a video on this game. And I can tell you that we both really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But for me, what I enjoy the most about it is the theme. It's just such a unique theme, and it's a theme that really speaks to me as a licensed marriage and family therapist. It's about couples who live together, who deal with the real life situation of decorating their home, decorating the place they live in, and how one person has tastes and the other person has completely different tastes.
No tastes.
And they may not mix together, and you can make a game out of that, and this game really works.
Yeah.
It's a solid game. So, Sam, what do you think of Decorum?
I think it's a great game, and I will talk about it more later.
Okay, then. So it's coming on later on down the list. All right. What is your number 8 game of the year?
My number 8 game is Planted, a game of nature and nurture.
Planted from Buffalo Games and Puzzles.
Yes.
Now, this is another Phil Walker Harding game. So this is the second time he's been on our list. What about this game speaks to you?
The what are they called?
The resources?
The components.
Components?
Yes, of this game are really fun. It makes it feel very much like you are taking care of plants.
Yeah.
And we've had a lot of plant games this year.
Yeah, we have.
That's a theme. But this one, I think, definitely stands out from the other ones. It's fun. It's quick. And it's because I think the resources just make it feel a lot more interactive.
Yeah. This game had a lot of buzz when it first came out here in the United States. And up to this point, I still think it's only available in the United States, which is one reason why maybe it hasn't gotten a lot more recognition around the world as it deserves, because this game just is solid. It works really well with casual and non-gamers. The mechanics are tried and true, and yet it's not a boring game. And then you throw on the top of that the components are top notch. It just makes it a beautiful game to have out on your table. Makes you proud to bring it out and show it to people who maybe don't play a whole lot of board games, and you can say to them, look at what board games have to offer. This is a sweet looking game, and it plays nice, and you'll get it like that, and it's a lot of fun. So lots to like about Planted.
Number 7.
And now we are to our number 7.
All right, so what's your number 7 game for 2022?
My number 7 game is Old London Bridge.
Old London Bridge. This is from Queen Games. What did you think about it?
I really liked this game. We played with some other people who didn't. After I played it once and was ready to share it with other people that didn't like it as much, and I just couldn't get it because I just thought this game was so interactive. I mean, you're physically building a bridge.
Yeah.
There's so many options of how you could win the game too. There's not just one path to victory.
True.
And I liked that. I think the first time I was like, there's so much to think about, and there is. And it is one of those games where you're holding your breath as each person picks which
building drafting from the center.
Yeah, the drafting aspect of it. But that's kind of what I like from Splendor as well, which is my number 1 of all time. The hold your breath. You have a plan. You kind of have to be on the fly. You have to change your plan up a little bit. But something about it was just really enjoyable.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for such a simple idea of needing things to be in a certain order or a certain pattern. And if you can't make that pattern happen, then there's a penalty, or you have to restart or something of the sorts. And you take that idea and you apply the drafting mechanic to it, 9 times out of 10, that's going to be an enjoyable experience, or there's going to be some fun to be had with that. And then you throw in the 3D aspect, that you're actually got this bridge with this, elevated and has a 3D aspect to it, and you're building this bridge in front of you. There's a lot to like about that. We did a video on it, and I thought it was a solid game, but you really enjoyed it. So.
I just had a lot of fun playing it.
Yeah. All right, so my number 7 game is a game that we did a video on just here recently, another recent game for us, and that is Ready, Set, Bet. It's from AEG Games, and it's another horse racing game. Horse racing has been strong this year. But out of the 2 that I've already mentioned, obviously I enjoy Ready, Set, Bet more than Long Shot the Dice game. And the reason for that is just I think that there's a lot more energy with Ready, Set, Bet. It feels like a real-time race is going on, because it is real-time, and you are having to place those bets out there, and you have to have the the presence of mind to understand where's it at in the race, and it's coming down to the neck and neck, and we're getting close to that no bet line, and I want to make sure to get that bet in there right at the last second and get every bit of information that I can have before it's too late. And that's just a tense, exciting moment. And then even still, there's still that last little bit of the race to be had where everything gets shaken up and you just don't know how it's going to shake out. So Ready, Set, Bet for me was a very enjoyable experience. What did you think about it?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed playing it.
Yeah.
Number 6.
All right, so we're on to our number 6 game for 2022. And my number 6 game is a game that I got to do a very short video on when I got to play it at BGG Con in Dallas this last November. And so I've only had such a limited time with this game, but the limited amount of time that I've got to have was enough for me to feel like this is my number 6 game of the year. And that is Turing Machine. This is from Hachette Games, and it is a game that is not readily available. It has been sold out, and I should have picked up a copy when I had the opportunity at Gen Con, BGG Con, PAX Unplugged. I had 3 opportunities to get it, and I missed it every time, and I am kicking myself for it. But it is such a fantastic little puzzle-y game in which you are trying to solve a 3-digit code, and you have these different questions that you can run an answer through, and the game has a way to tell you whether or not the answer you've put would fit that puzzle, that question, or would not, to help you to deduce what the 3-digit code is. And you're wanting to try to figure it out faster than all the other players. And I know that sounds way complex and way complicated, but I can promise you that this is not a complicated game, and you can have a lot of fun with this particular game. We will get to review it at some point. I don't know when that's going to be, but I'm going to have to get a copy of this. And so Turing Machine from Hachette Games, definitely a fantastic game. So that's my number 6 game. What about... And Sam's never played it, so she doesn't really have any opinion on it. So what is your number 6 game?
My number 6 is Acropolis.
Acropolis. All right, so tell us about what you think about Acropolis.
It's tile laying, which is always going to be a big hit for me, but very unique tiles. And it's not just one-dimensional. You can place your tiles on top of each other, making it taller. And it has what we call the King Domino scoring. So, you have 2 stars, so you multiply that by how many are touching of that color. And it's just fun. Unique. I like the artwork on the tiles, the shapes of the tiles. It's just a very unique game.
I'm going to save my thoughts on it because you will be hearing about it again soon.
Number 5.
Okay, we're going to get into number 5. And my number 5 is our biggest game, and that is Foundations of Rome.
Got lost in your notes.
Yeah.
Foundations of Rome. Okay, so this is from Arcane Wonders.
And I never, ever, when first seeing this game, would have thought that this was going to be my top 5.
It is a very... looks are deceiving with this game. What do you enjoy about this particular one?
I mean, it's like a little kid. You have all these pieces and you just want to play with them. And there's so many pieces, and it's so large. You would think it would just be overwhelmingly complicated, and it's not. It's very straightforward. And it's just so much fun to play with. I mean, having a game that large with that many pieces, it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming in a good way.
Yeah. It blows your mind away that a game that's so intricate and detailed can be so easy entry point for people to just sit down and learn and be able to play. So.
And I think it's so nice because there's so many of these big intricate games that I'm just not, they're not my type of game.
Yeah.
So to have something like that I really can play with Lance and play on my own, be independently playing this game, it's a great point for gamers and non-gamers.
Yeah. I won't say anything else about it because I think you will be hearing about that again on down the line. But for me, my number 5 game is another game that I got to play at BGG Con, and I was able to get a copy of it, and we've recently played it here, and that is Evergreen. This is from Horrible Guild, and it is a game that I feel it is a photosynthesis killer for me. And what I mean by that, if you don't know, there's a board game called Photosynthesis. It is about making trees and using sunlight to grow your trees. It was an area control kind of game. And while this is not area control, it is still very similar theme, very almost exactly the same theme.
Yeah.
You're doing a little bit more than just the trees, but it is a game in which you are drafting cards that you are using to build up different regions of your planet. Each person has a planet, and you're trying to make little tree saplings turn into little trees, turn into big trees, and you're trying to get those trees to be in the place that are going to give you the most points at the end of the game. For me, this was a very thinky game, and yet it was a game that just seemed so smooth and intuitive. I understood it from jump start, and I feel like I can teach it well, and it's just a very enjoyable experience. It's a calming game for me for some reason. I play it and I feel just at a zen-like moment when I'm playing this game. So I really enjoyed it. I think we'll try to get a review video out on it soon. We just got a copy of it not too long ago. So
yeah, and that's probably why it's not on my list.
Yeah.
I just played it for the first time a few days ago.
Right, yeah.
So otherwise, I do think it probably would have been at least an honorable mention, if not in my top 10. It was a fun game to play.
All right, well, there you have it.
Number 4.
All right, so we're on to our number 4 game for 2022, and my number 4 game is a game that you've already heard in this video, and that is Acropolis. Acropolis from Gigamic Games. And like Sam said, this is a tile laying game, and we are suckers for tile laying. We just feel like that's a mechanic that really works well with casual and non-gamers. As we've said in lots of videos, it's just something that's familiar with a lot of people. It's kind of like putting a puzzle together. Yeah. And with this particular one, the way the pieces are shaped and needing to match those colors with the stars, like Sam said, the king domino type scoring, but then you throw into it that you can put tiles on top of tiles to double the points or triple the points. That, for me, really takes the game to a whole nother level. We like drafting games. There's just a lot of mechanics that work really well. And maybe we're biased because we're suckers for those kind of mechanics, those types of games, but it is such a smooth game, works really well for us, and I just, there's not anything about the game that I don't like. Obviously, it being my number 4 game of the year.
Yeah.
Just a solid all-around experience with this game that it keeps me wanting to bring it back to the table, so I really enjoy Acropolis. It's my number 4 game. What about you?
I think if any game on this list screams non-gamer, it will be my number 4, and that is a Great British Baking Show.
Ah, the Great
Game.
Okay, yeah, you got to get the game in there because we're not talking about the show. We're talking about the Great British Baking Show game. Now, that's too long of a name, but it is a great game, and it is from Ravensburger. So what did you like about that one?
It was so fun to play, and I love the show. I'm not a big themey board game. Usually, if they're trying to put a theme on it, it's kind of watered down. It's not super enjoyable. This game was so fun. I think they did such a great job in developing the pieces that you put together, the way in which you judge and how you're able to use the ingredients given. A lot of thought goes into, because how do you make a game based on baking cakes?
Yeah.
But you totally do, and it's timed, it's fast, it's just a lot of fun, and almost anybody can play it.
Well, I stink at the game, and I said that as much in our review video for it, but I still enjoyed it myself, even though I was not very good at it. And it is a real-time game, and so that's a game, that's a thing that a lot of people will automatically write off.
Yeah.
Real-time,
and
not for
real-time
me.
games aren't typically my thing.
Right, but this one works because it has that stress of it being real-timed, and it works with the theme.
Is real time.
Yeah, it works with the theme, and it's such an easy concept. You look at it and you think, this cannot be hard. I'm matching a pattern with these cards, and I take a look at the card, I don't need that one. I take a look at the next one, I do need that one, and I put it there. Like, that doesn't seem like that would be interesting or challenging enough, but then you get into it and you see how quickly everybody else is going, and you're like, oh no, I gotta keep going, I gotta go. Oh no, I put down a card that I needed and now I can't use it, and now
you gotta go for that secondary ingredient.
Right, and then you gotta make these choices of, do I just use the soggy bottom ingredients, and do I just go for the quick and easy to get the points? There's some good choices there. It is a fun game, for sure.
Number 3!
Okay, and for our number 3, I'll go first. My number 3 has already been mentioned by Lance, and it is Decorum.
All right, so Decorum, the second time we've heard this one, Floodgate Games. What'd you like about it?
I just thought this is such a unique idea for a game. I think the first time we played it, I was like, I don't know, the colors, it does nothing. It's supposed to be like, putting a house together, and the colors don't go together at all. But
that's what she's focused on.
Yeah. But it's so enjoyable. You have all these pieces, and you're trying to read each other's minds by just saying yes and no, or
I love it, I hate it,
yes,
meh.
And it's just so fun. And then when everything works together, and then you start comparing, like, oh, I had this, and this. Oh, well, that's why I kept saying no.
That,
And for a husband and wife, I think it's great for any type of roommate situation.
Yeah. It's a game that just it's an unusual idea for a game, and the novelty of it that adds to the game, but that's not what makes the game great. The game is great because of the interactions that it brings out, and the way you start to see how somebody's brain thinks as they're playing the game. And then you throw onto the fact that the theme and the idea for the game are unique, and it's a fresh take on it. It really takes the game to another level. So as I mentioned, it's already on my list, so I liked it a lot. Yeah. My number 3 game is a game that you heard Sam mention way early on in this video as an honorable mention, and that is Creature Comforts. It is from Kids Table Board Games, and Creature Comforts brought out a mechanic that I don't know that I've ever seen in a board game before, and that is not just using your dice as workers, but needing to identify where you're going to be putting your dice before you've rolled some of them. You've got 2 that you know what they are already, so you're using imperfect information to place out your workers to try to do certain things on your turn. But the idea of rolling the community dice that everybody has to share, and how those dice are used, you need to put them in runs of 1, 2, 3, or all 3s in one spot, or just, the board changes up each round. Just thought that was such a clever and unique idea, and it really worked well for me with the worker placement, gathering up resources, needing to build certain things to get points. Overall, I felt like it was a fresh idea for a board game in a very crowded space of ideas that all tend to feel the same. Creature Comforts was a game that really stood out to me and felt totally different. I had a lot of fun with it. So that's my number 3 game for 2022.
Number 2!
All right, so my number 2 game, we're already at our top 2 for 2022. So this is the second best game that I feel like I've played all year long. And again, this is a game that's probably not well known because it's not here in the United States. It is available elsewhere. But I've gotten to play it at 2 different cons that I went to this year. And it is a Uwe Rosenberg tile-laying game. And that is Applejack. Now, this comes from the Game Builder. And like I said, it's not yet available here in the States, so we've not been able to review it.
I feel like that's not fair.
Sam hasn't been able to play it yet. I have a feeling she will absolutely love it. But this is a tile drafting, tile laying game in which the currency, the points that you use to be able to get the tiles are victory points. So you do have to make careful decisions about, do I want to spend a lot of points to get the perfect tile, even though I'm giving up a lot of victory points to be able to do that. And then you need to have your light colored apples in the same area, and you want to grow those areas to be big and large. But then you also are needing to match up the honeycombs to get yourself the points so that you can buy the tiles later on in other rounds. Just really enjoyed that mechanic, and Uwe Rosenberg does some excellent games, excellent heavier, thinkier games, but this is a game that I felt like can work fantastically well with just about any casual non-gamer out there. It's a very simple idea, and yet it's very thinky, but not too much so that it's rules thinky and your brain just cramps up. This is more, man, do I really want to put it here? Do I want to put it there? Do I want to put there? Should I buy this one? Should I buy that one? There's a lot of simple decisions, but they're good meaty decisions. And for me, it was a game that just knocked my socks off at both the cons that I got to play it at. And so it's my number 2 game, even though I don't own it. I will own it someday, but I absolutely love the game. So that's my number 2 game, Applejack.
And my number 2 is, couldn't find it for a second, Downtown Farmers Market.
Downtown Farmers Market. This is from Blue Orange Games. This is another Blue Orange game.
Yes.
What did you like about this one?
Just it's a tile laying game,
Yep.
so big fan. But you're creating your own grid, which most games, it's the opposite. The grid is there, then you're having to figure out what goes in that area. So you get to start by creating your own grid. They have 2 sides, so you really can make it more difficult for yourself and get more points, or a little bit easier the first couple of times you play, and then it's drafting. And so you just have to figure out what's going to work, and there's a little bit of hate drafting in it, which I'm not a big fan of, but it's really easy to do in that game too. Well, it's easy to recover from too.
And the hate drafting is such a costly thing to do in that game, because you really need to focus on your own goals. Yes. And when you hate draft in that game, you're really hurting yourself just as much as you're hurting them.
Yeah.
So that's not something that you do too much in the game. Yeah. It really kind of comes out on the very last turn.
The options for your X and Y axes
Axi
are unique too. You know, this column may need to equal 7, no matter what it is.
Yeah,
this
7 items exactly.
Anything you want, but not carrots. And the thinkingness of filling it out. And there's really no way. I'm sure that there's ways. There's people that are smarter than I am that can do their whole grid and everything works. Usually, you have one column or row.
Quite the accomplishment if you could do it.
Yeah, that ends up you just have to burn it, and you're like, all the crap's gonna go right here. But it's a really fun game to play.
Yeah, I think it's a game that every time we've played it, no matter who we've played it with, it's had a 100% success rate.
Yeah.
Everybody has enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And the only reason why it might not be on my list is just because I'm looking for those games that provide a little bit of a bigger experience. It is a smaller game. It's just a 4x4 grid that you're filling up.
Yeah.
But what it does well. It does really well. And yeah, I think...
And I really, for my list, more so than Lance's, I'm going off of games that I remember playing, that we chose to play multiple times, because in our line of work, there's oftentimes we're playing a game one time. So when we get to play it multiple times with multiple people, that tells me something about it.
Yeah, for sure.
And finally, number 1!
All right, so we are at our number 1 game for 2022. Now, before we get to it, we probably should have said this at the very top of the video, and that's just the statistics for this video. And what I mean by that is the games, the amount of games that we've played. So we've been doing Love to Hate since May of 2020. And we've played a ton of games, but not nearly as many as we've played in 2022. We've played a lot more games in 2022 than we ever have before, and a lot of new games. So I played somewhere in the vicinity of 150 new 2022 games. I'm not talking about new to me and it came out in 2021 or 2020, just 2022. And that doesn't include previews or games yet to come. anything of that nature, I've probably played somewhere over 300, 400, maybe even 500 games just in 2022.
Problem.
For Sam, you've played very close to 100 new games to you in 2022, and just 2022 games, not 2021 or 2020 or 2004, just 2022. Really close to 100 games. So we've played quite a bit. Now, granted, there are thousands of new games that come out every year, and it's just impossible for any one person to play every single game that comes out in a year. So I'm sure if we haven't said your favorite game that has come out this year, and it doesn't show up on our list, it may likely be because we didn't get to play it.
This video comes out, sometimes we go, oh man, I forgot about that game. So this is...
I've done a very good job to make sure that I've looked at every single game that I've played to have that not happen, but it could happen.
Yeah.
I suppose it could happen.
I'm not as good as at remembering the games we play. Lance constantly has to remind me, that was the game where you did this and this, whereas he remembers everything.
Well,
so it does happen with me where I play a game a second time and I'm like, oh man.
I really did like that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get to it then. Our number one game. So Sam, what is your number one game?
My number one game of 2022 is USPS, The Great American Mail Race.
USPS. Now this is from Big Potato Games, which Big Potato Games, they make party games. They make these fun, goofy, interactive social games.
This is not a party game.
This is a board game. This is a legit board game. So why did you like USPS, The Great American Mail Race, so much?
One, I thought the components of the mail truck were very unique.
Okay.
And the stamp that you got to use.
Yep.
They really thought it through. I thought that, it's a fairly straightforward game. You understand that, like, you're going to go, it's kind of like Ticket to Ride.
It's pick up and deliver.
Yes. Yeah. But it's so much fun. The very first time we played this, we were camping. And I'll never forget the first impression that it gave me. And I knew the first time I played it that it was going to be on this list. I didn't realize it was going to be number one, but we've played it since then, and it's number one quality to me.
Okay. Yeah. I very much enjoyed it myself. It is a pick up and deliver game that you can play with anybody.
Yeah.
It is a very simple game to get just about anybody to the table with and play, and you don't have to, go over lots of rules. You don't have to re-explain things. It is a very simple idea. I think for me, the thing that I like the most about it is there's a lot of different ways to get your points, delivering things, picking up the postcard.
Which are hilarious.
Yeah, which are funny. A lot of funny names on the board. I love that aspect of it.
It's in their real places, but it's the funniest cities in each town or in each state.
Yeah. And then, you've got your set collection and other elements that just are tried and true board gaming mechanics that work well.
Yeah.
And so for it to be a game that anybody can enjoy and anybody can play, and you can play it with casual gamers, non-gamers, and then for it to still be a fun experience for board gamers to play, that's, a solid game for what we do here on Love to Hate. And I can understand why it would be your number one.
Yeah.
So. All right, my number one game for 2022 is a game that you've already heard Sam mention, and that is Foundations of Rome from Arcane Wonders. So this is a game, like Sam said, you take one look at it and you probably write it off as being this big, epic, heavy game that only hardcore gamers are ever going to touch. And if you are somebody who just dabbles in board gaming, maybe you have a small collection of board games, you take a look at it and you think, no way, not for me. Do not judge this game by how it looks. Although it is beautiful. Yes. It may be one of the most beautiful games of all time. It is not as nearly intimidating as what it looks. No. Although you can include lots of modules, and there are more coming out. There was a Kickstarter that just wrapped up not too long ago for expansions for this game. You can make it more weighty and more thinky and more complex. You don't have to do that. The base game is a whole heck of a lot of fun, and you can play it with just anyone. This is a game in which it is the simplest ideas. I want to buy this plot of land so I can put this building there so that it gives me these points. And because it's adjacent to this one, I get more points or more coins to buy more things. Simple ideas, but beautifully, masterfully done on the table. The only negative about it is a very expensive game, and it is hard to come by. If you miss out on it on the Kickstarter campaign, you got to pick it up at a convention. And if you have the opportunity to get one and you don't own it, get it. It is a fantastic game. I'm proud to own it. I'm proud to show it off and bring it to the table whenever I can get people's eyes on it, because it's such a beautiful, well done game. For me, it's far above and beyond the best game that I've seen come out this year. So that's my number one game, Foundations of Rome. So there you have it. That is our top 10 list with a couple of honorable mentions for 2022. Leave us some comments down below. Let us know what games we missed out on, what games you enjoyed the most. Tell us which games you agree with us on, and let us know what you think about this video just in general.
Make sure to like and subscribe and push that bell button so you get notifications of all our new content.
I'm Lance.
I'm Sam.
And we are Love to Hate, where we try to bridge the gap between gamers and non-gamers. We'll catch you next time.